Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. We have hit number 20. We are at episode number 20. It's a beautiful sunny day. The wife has already had me out working and cutting the lawn at the same time I've been doing my real estate work. So it's been an eventful day for me already. My man, Geoff, how are you? Oh, pardon me, one quick second. I'm also excited to say that Geoff is going to be introducing a special someone to us today, but I don't want to give it away. Geoff, my man, how are you?
I am doing very well, coming off of a busy weekend. I was up in the Okanagan at a big DLC event of all its top Canadian mortgage brokers. Went
Beautiful.
on a helicopter ride, soaked up the sun, hit some jet skis. Just was a world-class event up there.
That's awesome. So all of these mortgage brokers got to meet the best one, is what you're saying. They got to meet Geoff Lee.
There was lots of great mortgage brokers up there,
I love Geoff Lee's
countrywide.
modesty, everybody. Modesty is a key thing to being one of the best in the industry. Continue, Geoff.
And it was just nice to rub shoulders with colleagues and fellow brokers. But
No, that's super exciting, man. No, that's awesome. I'm glad you had a great time. That's awesome. Myself,
well,
I yeah, myself, sorry. I had a pretty busy week myself. For me, the weekend it was just nice. I just chilled out with the family, but it's getting to be quite busy. I've been having a little bit of quite a few more conversations with some sellers like with the rate drop and stuff like that. And I've had a few conversations now, especially when it comes to the condo market. I think I want to touch on that in the next pod, actually. But a little bit of few conversations around the condo market and how that might be starting, how the market is performing there. But anyhow, Geoff, special guest, what's going on? We got a special someone.
we have a special guest. It's a Mr. Daniel Fedosenko, a home inspector. I'm going to let him kind of introduce himself. I'll probe him along with some questions. But Daniel Fedosenko, how you doing?
Great, great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Definitely excited to share tips and tricks of home inspections.
Well, tell me a little bit about your company. What is your company? Where is it located? What does it do?
Well, we're located in the Fraser Valley, and we do home inspections all the way out to Whistler and Boston Bar for folks buying residential and commercial properties. So whether you're buying a house, townhouse, condo, mobile home, commercial property, we're one of the most referred inspection companies in the Lower Mainland Fraser Valley area.
Well, and why don't you give us the grace and tell us what your company is called?
Well, Mr. Home Inspector,
Boom.
your local professional.
Really nice and easy. Full
Just like that.
disclosure,
That's
everybody.
straightforward.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great name. You know exactly what we do.
Absolutely. I was going to say, sorry, full disclosure. Everybody, my clients have used Mr. Home Inspector quite often. So I am particularly excited to have Daniel here with us to answer some questions about, what people can expect on both sides, why you should be doing a home inspection and what it provides you. So I'm particularly excited for this.
Well, and I also think it's important to note that, Daniel's been doing this well over 19 years. And again, Daniel, maybe you can kind of clarify, can anybody be a home inspector or what is the process to become a home inspector? Because we work on some files. I'm sure Allister sees this more than me, but hey, I'm going to get my uncle to check out the house before I buy it. So, what is the education behind becoming a home inspector? And can anybody do it? Because hey, everybody's got an uncle.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, yeah, great question for sure. Yeah, I hear that all the time. I've got my Uncle Bob over here. I got my dad. they're going to do my inspection for me, and we're just going to save ourselves the $400 to $500, and we're just going to do it ourselves. And every time I hear that, I literally just laugh, and because what your Uncle Bob is going to do or your dad, it's not going to be the same as what we do, especially when we provide an extremely detailed report, something the clients can do and the realtor will often use in the negotiation process. Your dad and your uncle, they're not giving you something like that. And it doesn't really mean a lot because they don't have the credentials. So to answer your question, Geoff, regarding, training and education, for the last several years, you have to be licensed under Consumer Protection BC, an arm of the provincial government. And the courses that are available, they can be taken through several different organizations that are recognized for the training process. Usually takes, if you fast track the courses, it'll take you about 6 months. Typically, most people will do it part-time, which is about a year process, part-time. And then, of course, once you pass all the courses and the final exams, then you have to do 50 mentorship hours with a licensed trainer under the Consumer Protection BC before you can take what they call your peer review inspection. And that is a full home inspection where a licensed trainer will go pick a property that is usually 30 to 50 years old, and they will do the inspection themselves and come up with a guideline and a complete report. And then the trainee would then do that full inspection, and basically they have to get 75% minimum to pass the peer review inspection. And then the trainer would grade that and compare that to his report, and then give them a letter, a recommendation letter that they would give to the Consumer Protection BC when they submit for their license. So it's a pretty rigorous process, and it's a lot harder and a lot more expensive to become a licensed home inspector than it is to become a realtor.
Or simply to become someone's uncle and just
Right.
designate yourself as a home inspector.
Right. It says,
Yeah,
I know what
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
We always talk
checking.
about
Can I
power
ask a quick
teams.
question? I just want to ask a quick question, Daniel. See, I know
Yes.
what are home inspectors allowed to give advice on? What are your boundaries? Because that's, I think, one of the biggest questions that that people have, both realtors and homeowners, home buyers, home sellers.
Yes, great question, Allister. For a home inspector, we're a generalist. So we know a lot about a lot of different things. We're not a specialist in one particular thing. For example, like, a plumber, an electrician, an engineer. So we know a lot about a lot of different things. And from there, some inspectors will have more experience, more expertise in other areas than others. But generally, regarding the scope of a home inspection, we work within our skill sets and our knowledge and maybe our tickets. Okay, so things that are beyond our skill sets, we recommend to a specialist. For example, septic systems and well inspections. Well, that is a specialized service where you're dealing with stuff that you can't see. It's specialized equipment where you have to do, underground examinations. It's more involved in different areas, more intrusive. So those types of things, we refer out to specialists because it's beyond the scope of a home inspection. Okay.
Hey, Daniel,
So,
we always
I was
talk.
just gonna say, sorry, I was just gonna ask an easy, like a little bit of an easy one. Let's say, can a home inspector say this is to code? This is built to code.
Yeah, exactly. Good question. A home inspector says if they were to say that something is built to code, we are not code inspectors. So we are not required to stay up on all the latest code changes throughout the industry. So we look at best practice and what should be done, typically over the course of time, using common sense and logic and informing people. So no, we're not a code inspector. And the moment that an inspector says that to a client or puts that in the report, under a duty of care, they're actually now held to that level for the entire inspection. So you are not supposed to be saying this is not up to code.
And I think that's a very, very, very important thing that people need to hear, because that's something I know that unfortunately buyers, especially first-time buyers, they'll hire the wrong inspector, unfortunately, and they'll be told stuff like that, and it's terrible. So sorry, and I apologize for interrupting your questions, Geoff. That was just something that just wanted to touch on with the education that they go through, because it is intense, right? It is a rigorous education that home inspectors do go through.
Well, we've talked
Yeah.
about this.
Mhm.
We've talked about this in previous pods about the importance of a power team.
Yeah.
And a home inspector is part of someone's power team. And it's also very important that home inspectors, realtors, mortgage brokers, accountants, they're not all the same. You know, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's always important to recognize people that are leaders in their industry, you know, and I can firmly say Daniel with Mr. Home Inspector is one of the leaders within home inspections, just not only in process, but just on what he knows.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I have a couple other questions, you know, that people will always ask. What are some of the common issues that you find during a home inspection? Like what are the kind of the common things that you always see?
Yeah, definitely. Again, another great question. But some of those things that we come across that are very common in what we do is, number one, rodent infestation. Okay, very common, and I see time and time again where, in my opinion, my experience of over 10,000 home inspections now, is if people would just prepare the sale of their property properly and have a pre-listing inspection done, we would save people so much time and money and pain and suffering by doing one simple thing: a pre-listing inspection. Know exactly what you're selling, because you don't know what you're selling. You might live in that home for many years, but you don't know what you're selling. Because when I come in there, and by the time I'm done, I know exactly what you have and what you're selling. You can't judge a book by its cover. Number one, going back to rodent infestation. Okay, I've done 2 inspections recently, about 3 weeks ago, both of the same week, and one was in Chilliwack. And I love looking at the listing information before I go there. I see beautiful pictures, beautiful home, and then I show up, but I'm like, you know what? This does not look like what I see online.
Kind of like a dating profile.
Man, us realtors and our tricky pictures.
Yeah, and it wasn't your listing, Allister.
Absolutely
so
not, man. No way it would be.
But it was 40, 50-year old home. That's fine. Looked beautiful. Beautifully renovated on the main floor, kitchen, bathrooms, all the eye candy was there, right? And I was like, wow, nice, I like it. But I get up in the attic, and the whole attic was fully infested with rodent infestation.
Oh.
Now picture this, folks. traps, poop everywhere, urine stains, big rodent trails through all the insulation, things ripped up. Okay.
Whoa.
Now, from there, I know exactly what the crawl space is going to look like using common sense and deduction, right? I get in the crawl space, and the crawl space was a much more of a horror show in this case. Just poop everywhere, insulation ripped down, and so forth. Now, this is the thing. I asked the realtor, I said, by the way, did these people put on their disclosure rodent activity in the home? He looks, no, actually they didn't. And I'm like, he's there at the table with the clients there, and I'm like, I find that difficult to believe because they've got all kinds of storage in the crawl space. They've got traps in the garage. They got traps in the crawl space. These people must have known what they're selling and what they're working with. Now, so that's just one of the things. Now, this client was actually a repeat client, which is nice, but did her condo inspection years ago. And, I never know what people are doing after the fact unless I hear from them otherwise, right? But so this is a big remediation. Number 1, 2, severity. I'm like, you know what, folks, this is something your realtor can fix for you. They can look after it. They'll clean it up. No problem. I said, you know what, you're not going to get a housewarming gift, but they'll fix it this little area here for you. Right, Allister?
Absolutely. We do what we do.
Yeah.
What
Right?
we do to please our clients.
I think you make a really important point there, Daniel. Like so many people will do home inspections on the buying side.
So important to do it on the listing side.
And I don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
So, again, hypothetically speaking, these folks do that pre-listing. They notice there's an infestation. They take care of that infestation. It's one less thing that's getting reported on the inspection.
And so just to pause on that is actually, it's not to promote, I never like promoting ourselves, Geoff, but that is actually part of my my listing presentation. And what I do for my clients is if we do list a home, if they like, and it's paid for by me, which is always crazy when they say no, to have a pre-listing home inspection, because it also helps within negotiation, right? So if the other side wants to have a home inspection, they're always welcome to, and then we can marry both of them together, right? And it just allows, again, to know what you're selling, and for the other people to put it down and say, hey, we have nothing to hide. So here you can look through it as you look through this beautiful home.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So, bottom line, that happened twice that week. And I heard actually just last week, that those 2 properties, the clients aren't buying them because it's just too much for them, too much cost. And I guess maybe the negotiation didn't go very well. But again, have the sellers had the pre-listing inspection, knew exactly what they're selling. They could either price accordingly or get the repairs done, because these people were approved to buy the home. They want the home. They like the home, but problems, right? So it's backwards.
Yeah.
But that's really common is rodent infestation. And that's in any age of home. We see it time and time again. Newer home, older home. That's the most common thing that we find.
Yeah, I know when I bought my house, there was I won't say a rodent infestation, but identity or rodent droppings. So so I can relate to that being a common thing, because that happened with my home inspection when I purchased my house. Daniel, in Canada, we have winter, we have spring, we have fall, and we have summer. I had to remember all our 4 seasons.
What about construction?
But how does those types of climate affect the structural integrity of a home? Like when we are in a country or we're in a province where we experience 4 seasons, how does our climate affect the structural integrity of your home?
Yeah, another great question. See, in our climate, our number 1 enemy, it is actually not rodents, but it's actually water. And in beautiful BC, we have a lot of water, pretty much all the time, which is why we have such a beautiful green province, generally speaking.
Yeah.
when it's not dry and the forest fires are here. But yeah, water's your number one enemy. So you've really got to do a good job maintaining your home. And again, I see all the time, people don't maintain their home. If you maintain the home, it's cheaper to do maintenance than it is to do repairs and replacements down the road. So the biggest thing is you got to maintaining your caulkings around the exteriors, obviously cleaning out your gutters on a regular basis, cleaning your roof, repairing your roof as you need to, checking your flashings. You've got to keep the water out in our climate, especially. Okay, so that's really important because, again, we know, there's a lot of water. We got the atmospheric rain here a few years back where we had flooding in homes. So again, it's important to look at your grade levels, make sure your drainage is working properly in front of your garages, your basement stairwells, gutters, and so forth. Sump pumps are working in crawl spaces and basements. Really important to keep that water out of the home to prevent water damage.
Yeah, it always blows me away when we have the biggest asset of our lives, and we talked about this before, Allister.
Yeah.
The inability of people taking care of that asset.
Wild.
Right? It's crazy. It's just crazy to me that people do not do annual maintenance on their home. And their number one excuse not to is because it costs too much.
Yeah.
Right. But, to your point of water is one of the most enjoyable, but the deadliest things, if not taken care of properly. So yeah, that's good, solid advice.
Hey, Daniel, I had a quick question. I wanted to circle back because you had mentioned age of homes and home inspections. And I know that whenever, I'm dealing with buyers, a lot of the times they'll say, well, Allister was built 2 years ago. Do I really need to have a home inspection? And I look them dead in the eye and I tell them yes. And they'll look at me like I'm crazy, right? But I also now reiterate a story that you had shared with me. I always just use personal experience, like saying, why would you, no matter what age, why would you not make sure your investment is sound with a home inspection? Doesn't make sense to me. But I remember you telling me a story about air conditioning in a 2-year-old, I believe it was a townhome, where there was some issues and you did a home inspection. So age of home, does it matter? Should you get a home inspection on an old one, new one? When does it matter?
Well, yeah, great question. Again, I come back to is you can't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Time and time again, I go into homes and I surprise myself. I give you a couple quick examples right now, but yeah, on that 2-year-old townhome you're talking about, air conditioning, it should be working, right? Well, if we go there in the winter and we can't test the air conditioning because it's too cold outside, well, we don't know if it's working or not working, right? So we make a special note in the report, again, have your realtor check and get it in writing that the air conditioning is in proper working order, because what happened in that home is when the summer came and they wanted that air conditioning to work, it didn't work. And when it came down to what the repair was, it was actually $5,000 is what the HVAC contractor wanted to repair that unit. Well, might as well replace it. So again, 2-year-old home, cost of an inspection on a townhome, $500 plus tax for peace of mind. Yeah. Replacing your air conditioner, $5,000. Pick one, folks.
Right?
Which one would you rather do?
Exactly.
Right. So it's just that simple. That was just one quick example. Again, one other quick example. I can give you lots of good examples, but one other one is 5-year-old house. You know what, Daniel? It's a brand new home. It's 5 years old. And I'm like, well, it's not brand new, folks. It's 5 years old. Even if it is brand new, there's no guarantees. Yeah. But this was just 2 weeks ago. Torin, team member with us, did an inspection. The realtor is downstairs working at the kitchen table, CJ, and he starts running the master tub. And the clients had just arrived, and we're sitting at the table with CJ, and all of a sudden, the chandelier started leaking a lot of water right onto the dining room table where they were all sitting, right? Of course, CJ comes running upstairs. What are you doing? I'm like, Torrin's like, just running the tub, doing what we are supposed to do, right? Well, that tub hadn't been used since the time of construction of 5 years ago. They've never used the big master soaker tub. A lot of people don't. It looks cool, but again, everybody's sharing. So it actually leaked. 5-year-old townhome.
Wow.
You get an inspection? I would for peace of mind.
Wow. See? Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you
just a
for sharing
couple
that,
of
because
examples.
it is so important. I tell people it does not matter the age of home. It really, it doesn't. And so that way I don't sound like a crazy realtor, right? Saying it's so important. So important.
Yeah,
What-
exactly.
What should homeowners do to prepare for a home inspection? A lot of times, this is always a funny story. You ask, people have home cleaners come to clean their house, and they're cleaning the house before the house cleaner kind of gets there. What should homeowners do to prepare for a home inspection?
Preparing for a home inspection, yes, that's a good idea. It would be sure great if the listing agent let the sellers know how to prepare the home for the home inspector. It would sure make our job a lot easier and alleviate some of that pain and suffering that we come across. So I'll give you an example that just happened on Monday to us. Is we went to go do a condo inspection. Again, subject removal was actually for Tuesday, but everything had to get extended because the listing agent didn't confirm with the sellers that the power was on. Well, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. The listing agent should give them a list. Hey, is the power on? Is the water on? Great. Yes, everything's on and operational, ready for Daniel to come and do the inspection. So in that case there, everybody was inconvenienced. Buyers are showing up to review the report. Realtors showing up to review the report. Power's not on. We're trying to do the job the best we can. Now, subject's got to be extended by 2 days. We're going back to today to do the site visit. In the meantime, there's a site visit fee. Could you imagine if this happened to us all the time? We would spend half of our time going back for free to do site visits and clean up other people's mistakes. So we've got to charge accordingly for our time, because we're now not able to facilitate other people that need an inspection done to meet their deadlines. So we've got to go back today. We're doing the site visit to check all the electrical related stuff, which is quite involved still for us, which is more time and more money. The buyers have to pay. Buyer's agent, I think they're getting involved in it, when really the listing agent didn't do their job properly. So preparation, make sure we have access to the attic. Okay, we got to get in the attic. If we can't get up in the attic because you've got storage in there or a shelving unit in there, then we can't let people know what's going on up there. And when again, one of the most common things you find is rodent infestation, right? Access instructions, who's letting us in? Buyer, seller, realtor, uncle, 1-day code. It's good to know. Letting the sellers know how long we're going to be there to do the inspection. We have people coming back. Oh, well, we thought you'd be done already. Well, folks, it takes time to do a proper inspection. It's not just 1 hour. Oh, well, we thought it was only an hour. Well, it's going to be longer than that. It's 3 hours on a house. Okay. Access to the crawl space, access to mechanical room, access to the electrical panel. You go into the garage and they've got a big, huge shelving unit in the way of the electrical panel. Well, now we can't check the wiring. We need to know, is it aluminum wiring, which is a fire hazard, an insurance problem for new clients, right? We've got to access that. We're running the appliances, right? Make sure the oven doesn't have dishes all in it. Make sure the washing machine, or sorry, the dishwasher doesn't have a whole bunch of cloths in there like some folks do. They store stuff in the dishwasher because they never use it, right? Make sure, we can run the washer and dryer. Make sure the pilot lights are on for gas fireplaces. We can't spend an hour trying to light a gas fireplace, because the line isn't bled out, right? We have a schedule, and we have to be able to do our job. If we can't start it after 10 sparks, then it's not working. I love it when the client comes home and then they spark it up and it's working fine. And then they tell their agent, and then the agent tells the buyer's agent, we look silly, but again, we can't spend all day trying to light a gas fireplace. It should be working when we get there. So location for remotes for ceiling fans, gas fireplaces, mini splits. Okay. Depreciation report emailed to us for condo buildings, any special instructions, right? So those are just a series of things which will allow the inspection to be done in a timely fashion and forever to meet their deadlines.
Yeah. And so important for the realtor, whomever you've chosen to represent you in the sale of your property, to be walking you through that. And that is really the responsibility of your representative. And if they're not doing that, again, Geoff and I always say, that's just not somebody that's representing you properly, pardon me, right? So, hey, I've got a quick question for you, Daniel. So in terms of when should the buyer show up for their home inspection? That's always the question, that I always get asked, so when, Allister, when should I show up? When do I be there? Should I be there to ask them questions as I go along? And I say, no, please leave them alone. When should the people show up for their home inspections?
Yes. Ideally, in a perfect world, we like the clients that come for the last half hour of the inspection, where we can sit down with them, go over everything with them, show them anything they want. And the reason being is because we're human, okay? We do get distracted, we do get off our game, and we have a system that we follow to allow us to do an extremely rigorous, thorough inspection. And when we have folks there getting us off our game, asking us too many questions, taking our attention away from the task at hand, again, we are human. I've been there, I've done that, and things do happen. And living from hindsight and experience, that is always the ideal. They're going to get the exact same service, bring your list of questions and so forth at the time of the review. We can show you things that you want to see, but we like to be able to focus so we can do the inspection the way that it needs to be done to give clients the peace of mind.
Yeah. And that's what I tell them. So so it's just good, again, for them to hear that. Yeah.
I know when
And
I have a question.
And just
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, inspection reports. They're always a mystery to me when I take a look at them, because they're, it's like some of them are like reading a legal document. So with home inspection reports, I think a common question is, when should a client receive them, right? And what is the insight of making sure that they're being read properly and interpreted properly? Like, tell us about a home inspection. How do you read it? When should you receive it? Because I've heard home inspectors getting reports at the end of the inspection. I've heard it come 2 days after the fact. Like, it seems like there is no commonality as far as, or an understanding as far as, if I'm going to get a home inspection, when am I going to see the report? And how can I read this properly so I'm not confused, like when some people will read legal documents?
Oh, and who also receives that report? I'd like to tag on. Who gets that report as well? Who gets the copies?
Yes, for sure. So, hey, that's a lot of questions in one question, but so let me try to answer those questions. And if I forget to miss a question, let me know. So who owns the report? The person hiring us for the inspection, the buyer, owns the report. And so when we've gone over the inspection with the clients, we always ask them, especially the realtors there, hey, Allister is here. Would you like us to send them a copy of the report as well? If there's anything for you to discuss, you can do it over the phone. If there's any concerns, you can screenshot those sections and forward it off to the appropriate party. So that's how we, work that part at the end. But, the buyer owns the report, not the sellers, not the listing agent, and not the buying agent. But of course, the buying agent is working for the buyers.
So I think
And
it's
then
really
as
important to tag on that is that if you are ordering a report, it belongs to the buyer. So if the seller is asking for it, if the listing agent is asking for it, if the seller's agent is asking for it, the answer to them is no, unless the buyer gives the consent.
That is correct. And we always ask for that consent in writing via email or a text, something we can see for our records, because in the past there has been an issue where, that arises where that information is disclosed. And again, you want to have it in writing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as the delivery of the report, a good, competent home inspector with experience, there's no reason why they cannot deliver a fully written digital or paper copy of the report on site. Okay, so by the time the process is done, the report should be delivered on site. Okay, we have the technology nowadays. I mean, we've got paper, we've got pen, plus we've got all the digital. Even if you don't have cell service, they can be given a temporary copy while the rest of the information is loaded up online and so forth. So again, by the time we're done the inspection, the client has a copy of the report. We've reviewed the report with them, and the realtor, if the realtor attends, okay. So all on site, not the end of the night or not the next day.
Yeah, I think that's a really important takeaway and understanding is that a good home inspection company will deliver that report to you at the end of your inspection. Not the next day, not the day after, but on the same day after the inspection, which is great.
It's super important to know, because the other thing that people need to understand is that actually, if your home inspector is giving it to you a day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, that's actually compromising your subject removal time, right? So you actually have a home inspector that's getting in the way of you purchasing your home, and that should never be.
Yeah, yeah. So to add on to the questions within the question of that question, what are the key components of a home inspection report?
Okay, well, with the standards of practice that we're held to as a home inspector, you're going to see 3 sections: a description section within each component of a home, describing the home and age, what the actual product types are, and so forth. A limitation section, which states how the inspection has been performed or not performed and the reason why. And then a recommendations section. And that is basically the section where we have all of our findings, everything we found for things that are not up to snuff, so to speak. Okay. And so those are your main sections you're going to see outside of your major components, which would be roof, exterior, structure, heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, and interior insulation. So those are your major systems and components of whether it's a house, a townhouse, or a condo, or mobile home.
The more I'm listening to you, Daniel, the more I'm understanding why your uncle cannot do a home inspection.
That's exactly it, right? Now, quickly, Daniel, do you report on things behind the wall?
Now, we look for signs and symptoms.
Okay.
If there are no signs or symptoms, we can't really, there's nothing for us to report on.
Right.
Okay. We are very experienced and we know exactly what we're looking for. Okay. So, but again, if something looks perfect, then there's nothing to identify. But at the same time, if we, again, looking at a sign and a symptom, if we see some caulking or a flashing is missing on the outside, or softening is missing, from that, we can make an inference. If there's softening missing and going up into the attic, well, from that, I suspect, okay, you know what? We've got rodents living up in the attic, and we're going to have pest infestation. Or we've got caulking missing here, or a flashing missing at a front porch on an older home. From there, okay, you know what? I suspect there's going to be water damage because the caulking hasn't been maintained, nor is there a flashing. And from there, when I go under the stairs, I'll probably suspect I'll see some water damage. So we make an inference based on our experience for something we cannot see. And again, 9 times out of 10, again, there's something going on there when we see a sign or a symptom. But if everything looks perfect, then there's nothing for us to identify in that situation, nor can we predict the future.
Right.
Okay. Sometimes people will call us back a year or 2 years later, and they've opened something up. And that's great. The contractor has done destructive testing, something that we can't do at an inspection because we don't put things back together, and Allister's not going to be putting that all back together as part of his
I'm not
package.
good at putting things back together at all, man. Once it's out of the box, it's out of the box. I can't put it back in.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, we're not doing destructive testing. But again, we are very good at what we do. Okay, but so to answer your question, Allister, I hope that is helpful information.
No, it does. No, it does, because that's a big question that people ask is, well, do they check what's going on, like the pipes behind the walls and all that sort of stuff? And I said, no, they're not going to go and break through drywall and check all that. But what they are going to do is use other measures to check for leaks and stuff like that. And that's what you end up going through. But no, that really does. That's really helpful. Hey, man, I got one more question because I know you got to get cracking and get going, but what are some tips that you can give buyers out there when we're going out and we're looking at properties? What are some tips you can give them to look for while we're out taking a look at homes?
Well, that's a bit of a tricky one because one man's shack is another man's castle, right?
Right, but let's say if you see down the wall you see running water stains, right? That's probably a red flag to say, hey,
yeah, you want to look for signs and symptoms of issue, whether it be carpenter ants when you're walking around the outside of the home and you see brass under the wood siding or around a brickwork. Okay, looking for signs and symptoms of problems. Carpenter ants, okay, if we're buying a 1960s, 1970s home, okay, you know what? We've probably got aluminum wiring in there, which is going to be a fire hazard or insurance issue. Looking for water stains on the ceilings while you're walking around, okay. Maybe taking a look in the bathroom, looking what the showers look like, okay. Are the caulkings in good shape? Are the grout in good shape? Give the toilets a wiggle, see if they're tight. Okay, if they're tight, they're probably not leaking, but they still very well could be leaking. Okay. Running the furnace, maybe running the air conditioning, just some of these simple things you can do when you're walking around. Okay. Getting in the crawl space. I don't think Allister's bringing a ladder on his vehicle on the listing inspection.
No, I'm afraid of heights. Actually, I'm more afraid of falling than heights, but I just don't like getting up on ladders.
Yeah, exactly. So get in the crawl space at least. You may not be able to get in the attic, but if you can get in the crawl space, you can see if there's flooding down there or rodent infestation. Okay. So you have a better idea of what's going on. Okay. But yeah, those are all some helpful things.
That's
I
awesome.
have many, many more questions, Daniel, but I do have one, and then we'll wrap this up. How often, if you own a home, because we've talked about doing a pre-inspection,
Yeah.
how often should you have your home inspected if you are a homeowner? Because I think this is something people don't do, but I think as I'm hearing you speak, the more I'm understanding, it's just like it's like maintaining your vehicle.
Yeah. No.
I have a little Fiat, a 2000, and I don't even know what year Fiat. It's got over 200,000 kilometers on this thing. But I believe the reason why it's still going strong is because every 6,000 kilometers, we're doing an oil change on it. So if I'm going to take that good a care of an asset that is depreciating, how should I take care of an asset that is the biggest asset of my life and is going to basically be pretty much my retirement at the end of my year? So how often should a homeowner get their home inspected?
Yes, great question. Based on my experience, having been a homeowner now for close to 20 years, at least every 3 to 5 years, in my experience, based on what I see in all of my inspections and being a homeowner myself. And the reason I say being a homeowner myself is my first home, bought it brand new, there for 15 years. I had 3 water insurance claims. Now, if I had been a little more involved doing my maintenance inspections, all 3 of those claims really would have been avoided.
Right.
Okay. But of course, I'm like the mechanic, I'm busy doing the inspections for everybody else and not fixing my own car. Right.
Yeah.
So, so I would suggest every 3 to 5 years doing the maintenance inspection so you know what to look out for and what to stay up on for your home. Because again, when you go to sell that home, you want to be able to sell it knowing exactly what you're selling, and peace of mind that when you get that offer, it's going to go smoothly. Because like I tell people, I said, you know what, you're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later. So I usually recommend it's going to be cheaper to maintain and fix it now rather than, when the negotiations and everything happens. Because, when Allister's there negotiating for his buyers, they're going to be asking for a lot more money
Right.
because, they reach for the sky, right?
That's right.
Well, Daniel, I want to thank you for taking the time. I want to give a big shout out for Mr. Home Inspector. And
Yeah,
again,
baby.
your service area is, can you remind us of your service area? Where do you go to? Where do you go from? Where can people, what is your service area? Remind us on that.
Well, okay. Well, my dad always taught me, he says, Daniel, you go where the people want you. You don't complain, you don't whine, you just go do it. So generally speaking, it's West Vancouver to Holt. But if I like you, I'll go as far as Whistler and as far as Boston Bar. Okay?
I think you've gone to Kelowna one time, haven't you?
Yeah, I've gone to Kelowna, definitely, because I like them. Okay, and actually it was about 3 weeks ago. We went all the way out to 59 Mile House. 59 Mile House.
Jeez.
But obviously we charge a travel fee for that, but they're past clients and they really wanted to have us out. So we're happy to service.
Yeah. Again, folks, I think it's so important, based on what I'm hearing on this pod, is having your home inspected when you own it. Very, very important, every 3 to 5 years. Having your home inspected when you're going to purchase is a must do. If you are selling your home, to have it pre-inspected is a must do. If you have ever had an inspection done and you're waiting for that report longer than 4 hours, it's not a positive thing. And no, your uncle cannot inspect your home. So, Mr. Home Inspector, Daniel Fedosenko, highly, highly recommend. And for you, a scholar and a gentleman.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Amazing. Well said, Geoff. Well said, my man. Yes, and from the realtor's point of view, absolutely crucial. If your realtor is not encouraging you to have a home inspection, they're crazy. They're not doing you justice. If you're sitting down with a realtor who's not offering to pay for your home inspection during the listing process, you're not talking to the right person. So talk to me, because that's part of what I offer my clients. It is something that is so important to know the value, to know your home. Always, to absolutely always know your home. Daniel is one of, like I said, full transparency, as a realtor, I do have the duty to recommend 3 people all the time. But yes, Daniel is always on my list, and actually always at the top of it. Just because I know of all the success personally that my clients have had using Daniel and Mr. Home Inspector for their home inspections. So everybody, thank you for listening. This has been episode 20. Oh my God, I can't believe we've made it this far. I truly thank all of you guys out there for listening. Continue to talk about us, continue to share us. Most importantly, continue to download us, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast content. That's where you're gonna find us. Yeah, guys, I can't wait to talk to you all next Wednesday. Geoff, I can't wait to talk to you next Wednesday. Actually, as always, I talk to you Fridays. So we'll talk on Friday, but we'll talk to the rest of you all next Wednesday. Daniel, my man, thank you for joining us. Visit www.mrhomeinspector.com, correct? Is that your website?
MrHomeInspectorLTD.com. And yes, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Visit his website, learn more. Daniel is also very involved in the community. So research Daniel, look at what he does for the community. He's not just an amazing home inspector. He's an amazing person. So I truly encourage you guys to just actually look at Daniel, Google Daniel as a person. He is great.
Some will call him an Instagram influencer.
You might, and that's what I'm saying. Check him out, people. Check him out. But an amazing man. So again, yes, thank you all for today. Episode 20. Download, share. Geoff, thank you. Daniel, thank you. That's it, guys. Cheers. We'll talk to you all next week. Peace out.
Y'all have a nice day.
All right. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.